the view from this side of the nursery is our dresser slash changing table. This was a sad little Craigslist find. I'm going to insert the before picture here because you probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. It was $25. It was pink and white. It had your normal round knobs on it, and none of this at the bottom with the molding or the legs was here. So of course the other change that we made were with these adorable cup style drawer pulls. They are sort of in an oil rubbed bronze color, and I just absolutely think they elevate the style of this piece so much. And I look forward to using this piece as we transition our nursery from a boy nursery to a co-ed nursery. Now this box on top really has a fun little story. We found a man who was selling a whole group of these on Craigslist, and these are old wooden boxes that were used to store things at his father's local grocery store a long time ago. And so you'll see another one here in the nursery, but we just keep diapers and wipes and this little faux fern in here. And I love the fact that it is actually genuinely old. We didn't do a thing to it, and it does have that neat little story. And then stepping over here to the changing pad, this is a cover by Burt's Bees. It's just a heather gray, and it matches our crib sheet. And I just love that this area is nice and bright, and it just feels fresh and simple. Alright, so looking over in this corner, we have our rocker. This was a $50 Craigslist find. You can see it here in this picture down at the bottom. The rocker legs were actually taken off at this point so that we could refinish them. But we did reupholster this entire piece with a lot of help from my aunt, who's a really talented seamstress. It was an undertaking for sure. If you look, I'm sure you will see there are imperfections, but I really do cherish the fact that we did this ourselves, and this is something really special to add to our nursery. Like I said, this was a big undertaking. If you've ever reupholstered anything, there are lots of staples and tacks involved. It's a really labor-intensive process, but the end result is so worth it, and it's something that means a lot to us. As I mentioned, we did remove the rocker legs and refinish those. They were an orange sort of toned wood, and so we actually stripped them down, and now the finish matches the finish of the crib that we also stripped down and stained. So this little table stays full of books, so I decided to leave it that way for this video. This is that orange toned wood. I may refinish it at some point, but I didn't have a bedside table, and my grandma was getting rid of this one, so I thought it would be a good fit for the space. The size is good, and like I said, we just keep our books and this little owl lamp that came from Walmart, actually. I already had this lamp prior to having the nursery, and I thought that it fit the theme pretty well. Over in this corner, we have this sweet little reading nook area. This armchair I found on Craigslist. It was a purple and white small gingham pattern, and it was very dingy, very dirty. So I actually used a tutorial from Lisa from the Farmhouse on Boone. I will link that video below. But she goes through how to slip cover a full-size chair. So I just took the same principle and applied it to this chair using this navy and white gingham fabric, and I just think it turned out so sweet. It is removable, it's got ties in the back, and so it's fully machine washable. And again, just another project that it's fun to know we did it ourselves. I had a lot of help from my cousin on that one. Over here next to it, we also have another wooden box. This came in that same lot as our little changing table box, and I just think this one's really interesting. It says corned beef on it, and I just think it adds a lot of character to the space. You don't really see that printing from the front, you just see the wood finish, but I like the contrast. So this crib was another Craigslist find. I'll have to look back and see how much I paid for it, and I'll list it here. But again, it was kind of that orange yellow wood, but it was such a beautiful shape and structure. I just fell in love with it, and I knew that it would work well for either gender, but we actually stripped down this entire thing. We sanded it and we used wood stripper, and it was a very long and tedious process, especially because you have all these individual spindles. If you've ever done a project like that before, you can probably empathize pretty well. However, I think the end result turned out really nice. We actually used 3 shades of stain, and I will list those below. And my method was, I actually saturated the wood with a damp rag. It wasn't, I wouldn't say saturated, but I made it wet enough to where the stain wouldn't seep in more than I wanted it to. And then I began with the lighter color of stain and came back with bits of the 2 darker colors, and that's how I achieved this finish. And there's Chewbacca in the corner. So I want to talk a little bit about the artwork in the nursery. I'm going to have to decide if I'm going to keep this up and do something different for our baby girl. But I actually made this once we got home from the hospital, and I had seen several things similar to it, but all of them were animal tracks and none of them had the baby footprints. And so I used a hand lettering font online and just copied it visually, and then all of this was done with Sharpie. All the writing and all of the footprints were done with Sharpie, with the exception of my son's footprints, which were done with black paint. So these sweet little animals are framed in Hobby Lobby reclaimed wood frames. It's just like the frame that you saw previous. And these were something that I saw on Pinterest, got inspiration for, and then my mom actually was able to recreate these for us, and I just think they're so sweet. This is the last piece of artwork that I wanted to mention. Again, I found the inspiration for this piece on Pinterest, and I asked my mom if she would do it. So this and the other 2 animal prints were done actually with an ink pen. I know it's different and it's probably not to everyone's taste, but I just think that it's a stunning image, and I think the way that the animals are detailed, it's just absolutely beautiful. I think she did an incredible job on all of these pieces, and I know I will always cherish them. Lastly, I just wanted to show you guys a few pictures of the nursery in our old house. Things were arranged a little differently, and we had the walls painted. We've not taken the time to do that yet in this house, but I did want to include these just so you could see. Alright you guys, and that concludes our DIY nursery tour. Thank you so much for tagging along. We will take you along every step of the way as we transition this into a co-ed nursery, and we are just so thankful. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.